Well, hey there, it's me again. It's the 25th of October in 2020. It's a Sunday today. And I woke up to snow. Not a ton, but it's snowing. So, a couple things I can resolve right now. First of all, in answer to the little old lady who walks up and down the street, no ma'am, I am not going to get this boat back in the water this year. And that also goes for my mother up in Montana. So I think what today's order of business is I had taken the mast off, and it's kind of back over off the very back of the boat. What I did last year is I ran it forward up over the bow pulpit up there, and then I stood I've got a little ladder that I stand up in the back of the cockpit, and that pretty much keeps the mast up straight across there. And then I take my tarps and drape them over that, kind of teepee them over the mast so that the snow runs off. So that looks like that's going to be today's order of business. I've got the old tarp from last year, but I've got to pull that out and check it out. I think it's kind of a lot of the corners and rings and eyelets and stuff have pulled through. I think these things are about a 1 year project. These tarps are pretty cheap things. But anyway, so my plan is to get the boat covered. I'm going to pull the battery out so I can bring it in the garage here and just keep it on the charger throughout the winter so it'll survive, because it's a brand new battery. I don't want to have it run completely down. And then I guess we'll just batten down the hatches for winter, because it appears like it's that time of year. So come on along, let's go get this thing winterized, put away for the winter, and wrap this project up till next spring. Yes, I do all my own stunts. Well, without too much more drama, I managed to get the tarp across this thing and get her all put away again for another winter, which kind of got me thinking back to the start of this process with the sailboat. So I'm going to show you a couple of pictures from when I first pulled it out of the Great Salt Lake. But as it turns out, when I was looking back through old pictures and so forth, that was 2015. So unfortunately, I've had this thing sitting in the driveway now for, well, apparently 5 years, or 4 seasons at least. But it was in pretty rough shape when I pulled it out of the water, which I'm going to show you here. And the reason I just keep kind of working on this thing and not just quite ready to give up and get rid of this old boat is because, I bought this boat when I was kind of going through a tough time, and I found that the process of sailing for me was a real mind clarifying thing. When I would be out on the water, A, learning how to sail for the first place, and B, kind of focusing all my attention on the sails and all the lines back to the cockpit and whether or not the boat was going to tip over, and all the stuff you have to kind of learn as you're sailing. It was really hard to kind of focus on all the other little day-to-day stuff that was driving you crazy. So I guess I kind of feel like this sailboat's always been good for my mental health, which probably getting out on any boat has always been, whether it was the Santana, the Santana or the Chaparral powerboat I had for a while, or the Sea Ray. and I hope to continue that on with the trawler. But anyway, let's go back to the beginning here, to the Great Salt Lake, so you can kind of see by how tall the posts are between the slips how low the lake was. And, you know, just a couple of summers of not really getting out there very much, the thing had gotten to look pretty bad. You can see some of the top paint was in rough shape. This is when I took the mast down to pull her out of the water. The woodwork on the sides, tough to see there, but was really bad. So this summer in 2015, everyone had to pull their boats out. They were going to dredge the marina. And this is kind of what she looked like when she came out of the water here. The old white and black paint job and the nasty green slimy stuff on the bottom. So the top deck, as I've said before, got to the point where I didn't feel safe walking on it. So finally, after kind of going back and forth with a couple of different ideas, I finally just took the Dremel out and I cut a hole in the top to see what was going on, and it was all bad news. You can see how easily the bottom was springing down here, and as we zoom in a little bit, there's the water. There's the source of all the trouble. So there really was no way to do this right except to just cut the whole top off and recore the entire top deck. So not knowing what I was doing or not having any experience with anything like this, I didn't let that hold me back. I just tore into it and tore the top off. And then Samantha and I got down in there with chisels and putty knives, and we scraped all the old rotted balsa coring out. And I mean, it was almost 100% rotted up here. There was one or two places it was still okay, but for the most part, total goner. And just replaced it all with strips of marine plywood. So I kind of built me a jigsaw puzzle and put the thing all back together, and then started mixing up tons of resin and fiberglass epoxy and just putting this thing back together and sanding it round again and getting ready to lay those top beds of fiberglass back over the top. So did that, skimmed a little bit of Bondo over the top to just smooth out the humps, but that worked out okay. And then, you know, some of the other stuff we did, you can see kind of the before and after here of the window frames, the window frames. They were just kind of pitted and corroded, so polished those all down, resealed the windows, put them back in, rebedded them. And then a lot of woodwork, and you know, like these doors here, the door sections were pretty tough shapes, so all the wood on the outside of the boat got sanded down and much varnish applied to it, and I think it looks much better. Here we can still see the blue tape where the compass was supposed to go, but never fear, we got a compass back in there. And some outdoor switches, waterproof switches to light up the compass. I put a little light in the companionway here in the cockpit to kind of, you know, light up the bottom of that at night if we're getting in. And then down inside, we put a new switch panel in there. I had an old battery meter from another job that I put in, and got cockpit lights in, a new stereo, a USB port charger, and all the electrical work redone. New nav lights, new stern lights, so everything is new from an electrical standpoint. And that's where we're going to wrap up 2020. We are going to put this project to bed for the winter, and we'll come back in spring, crack her open, finish up the top deck, the last of the hardware, and make our decision about what to do with the boat.